Hey all, welcome in. This is the second one today, and it's going to be a bit of a big one because there's a lot of stuff to cover, and the markets have been really good. Things are really rebounding very nicely. A lot of stuff is aligning, and we're going to break that down today. That's why we will talk about, fund flows, gainers, unlocks, of course, store of value, greed index, Bitcoin targets, some FSD stuff, some Tesla stuff, some NVDA stuff, some MicroStrategy stuff, and so much more. And the crypto market cap is over 2.4 trillion. And the fear and greed popped right back real fast. It was kind of stunning. So let's just jump in and talk about, make sure we're live. Yes. And disclaimer, none of this is financial advice. Shout out as well to Patreon, who make all this possible every single day for you. From Brad, thank you for all the information. In the last 3 years since I've been following you, I've increased my wealth and financial freedom, up almost 300% since joining. Awesome work, Brad. Really nice work. And shout out as well, by the way, we had another post in Discord earlier today to J-Man. I will not dox him, but he's been 2 years in the community, used the tools, and he got to quit his day job. And he's up 922.51% as well. I would like to remind everybody, though, these are special times, and we have been in the right assets at the right time, but always stay humble in the markets because they can rip your face off in a heartbeat, all right? Put stuff away, hedge, take profits, and you saw me doing a lot of that over the last couple of days, too. Thank you as well, Jules. Thank you to K8 and the mods in chat, Sean Donnelly. Thank you for being here twice in one day. I really appreciate you guys. Let's talk about the ugly news first today. Big unlocks for the week, as usual. Nasty dumpage from all the usual names. It's like they pop up every single week. Let's talk about some of them. We've got World Mobile Token. Avalanche is on there. Near Protocol is on there. Polkadot's on there. Uniswap is on there. Doge. Apecoin is always on there. Pixel. Filecoin, ENS, which is like Ethereum name service, Manta.io, ENA, all the ENAs and ENSs. Yeah, they're just going to dump forever. So pause the screen, check out the percentages. Be careful in these names. And also, in terms of the last month of crypto performance, it's been a rough month, but it has rebounded very fast. But all sectors are down for the month, with the exception of store of value, up 6.5%. Bitcoin down 2.6% for the month so far, and Ethereum down 4.2%. What's interesting about that is Bitcoin has outperformed Ethereum. Real world assets, by the way, only down 1.5%. That's going to be bonkers this year as well. And smart contract platforms only down 2.4%. Interesting. I just realized it now. Smart contract platforms have outperformed not only Ethereum, but also Bitcoin. Ta-da! Anyway, let's talk about evil characters in the space. Very important. And this clown always made me laugh because if you go back to the origins of what Bitcoin is and cryptographers, they call them cypherpunks. Okay? They're kind of t-shirts, shorts type of people. They'd never dress like this complete fool. Faketoshi. He is absolutely discredited. He is a scam. He faces perjury charges right now. His name is Craig Wright, and he was found by the High Court judge to have falsely claimed to be the cryptocurrency's inventor. And the Crown is going after him hard now, too. Again, you can just tell. You can tell a clown by the way they dress. All right? It's pretty easy. Anyhow, beware of people like this. No offense if you dress like that, though, but in this day and age, you don't need to anymore. Let's go. Let's talk about the bad news. The ugly was pretty quick. Let's talk about the short-term holder cost basis. Everybody always asks STHCB. I try to do a lot of shorthand for my carpal tunnel, but over the last 30 days, short-term holders saw a significant drop in profitability, with over 66% of their supply moving into unrealized loss. This is one of the largest declines on record, and this indicates many top buyers are now facing challenges in their portfolio profitability. Historically speaking, however, in contrast, long-term holders experienced minimal changes in their profitability because they bought when things were very, very cheap, not at the top. That being said, things are rebounding really fast. We had like a A period of 26 hours where Bitcoin went up $4,500. Another one where another 26, 28-hour period went up $4,000. Right now, let's check on the Bitcoin price live. 64,700, despite the fears of Mt. Gox. And I made a detailed video on Mt. Gox as well this morning. Check it out in case you missed it. Now, good news. That's the ugly and the bad out of the way. I like it when that ugly stuff is short. Let's talk about this. This was a pretty stunning pop in fear and greed. Back up to 65. And we were at 25. And literally, as I said before, a no-brainer strategy. When fear and greed is 25, buy in a bull market, not in a bear. In a bear market, it can be down under 20 for a long time, but just watch that carefully. Let's look at the performance over the last week. XRP is up. People are so excited. They've been waiting 8 years for this thing to pop. Yeah, it's only up 8%. Anyway, don't touch it. I don't like it. But I do have something good to say about Ripple later that'll come too. Everything else is kind of green versus Bitcoin, with the exception of Toncoin. That was down, but that had been popping for a lot of the period. Let's look at dollar terms. Again, a lot of green. Big week for Bitcoin, up 14.72%. Again, risk happens fast. I always stress that so many times. There's about 10 or 15 days every year that you want to be on the train. You miss those days, you leave 80% of the gains in the garbage can. Okay? So don't be fearful. But when others are fearful, you be greedy. Remember that. Let's look at the money flow. Big week last week as well. Digital asset investment products saw further buying on price weaknesses. It was so good to see that. And by the way, this historic chart I forgot to mention is because of Germany selling 50,000 Bitcoin in 3 weeks. Okay, that's what took it down. That's what broke records, everybody. The fundamentals of Bitcoin have not changed, but sometimes large dumpage can happen. But if you look at the money that bought the dip, crazy. The inflows were $1.44 billion last week, bringing year to date up to a record $18 billion, far surpassing 2021 inflows of only $10 billion. A lot of this is because, of course, the ETFs. BlackRock as well. They pulled in 18 billion alone, or 16 billion, 16 or 18 billion, I can't remember. Let's look at the breakdown by assets. Bitcoin had the fifth largest weekly inflow on record, 1.35 billion of dip buying. And short, Bitcoin saw the largest weekly outflow since April, 8.6 million. We like when that's red. That means people aren't going short, which lets the market go up. Also, a lot of the price weakness was due to the German government selling. They'll be remembered in infamy, by the way, for that sale, for dumping the market, getting less money than they could have. They could have had I always translate losses into how many schools you could build for kids or hospitals for sick people. They left a lot of money on the table because of their stupidity. Let's not let them forget that. Anyway, it did bring about the opportunity for people to buy cheap, which was good. Anyway, the CPI in the US also prompted investors to add positions. We'll talk about the CPI later in the video, and something that is 100% guaranteed for September, which is also very exciting. That's why we are back. And a wide range of altcoins also saw inflows. Ethereum was up after being down last week. They had 70 million in, because next week we know the ETH ETF is coming. And Solana had an inflow of 4.4 million. Litecoin, 1.2 million. And so not bad across the board for the different assets. Let's check in on where we are in the post-halving period. This is day 88 since the halving. And you know I track this carefully. We're in the middle of the box. Red line vertical is the halving date, the all-time high, and the floor, which we did break through thanks to Germany. But the rebound was nothing short of spectacular. Spectacular. So halfway up to all-time highs, we can get there very quickly. Again, we've seen how fast this thing can move. This thing can add $4,500 in a day. And to get back to all-time highs from where we are right now, 2 good days, we're there. So it'll happen sometime. Let's talk about Bitcoin season. It's up to 33. It did shoot to nearly 50 and rebounded a little bit. But the alts are moving pretty nicely. Let's look at the last 90 days. You know, you have different perspectives. You'll see different things pop at different times. Bitcoin is now up 3.3% over the last 90 days. Solana had a big rebound, up 18%. Tron is up there. Floki, Bonk, Toncoin still up 233% over the last 90 days. But it's taking a breather. But the meme coins, whoa, Pepe down 100%. How can that happen? Might be a problem in the chart from the site. I don't know. That's weird. Pepe shouldn't be down 100%. Nothing can fall 100%. Anyway, we shall see. But maybe it's good that some of the meme coin, excitement is leaving the market and people can focus on better projects. Let's talk about market depth as well. This is so important, especially given, if there is a potential dump, how much can the actual market absorb? That's why I care about this chart. And given the market depth, the average daily volumes of around 15 billion alone for Bitcoin, and the distribution of about 65,000 Bitcoin worth approximately 2 billion at current prices could be absorbed by the market over a period of a week or a little bit more without causing any severe disruptions. And assuming liquidations are done gradually across multiple exchanges, these findings, however, are only suggestive of the depth and maturity of the Bitcoin market, but should calm fears of liquidity shortage in the near term. The point is, yes, the market is big. The market is mature. Thank you, Mike, for coming. The market can absorb the dumps, and that was probably the biggest bright silver lining of the German dumpage, is how the whales just came in and just scooped it all up. Just boom, like that. Really cool. And that's a very, very important part of certain assets, is the depth and liquidity of those markets. Now let's talk about Bitcoin RSI. This is from the team at Econometrics. Shout out to Nick. This is important. So traditionally, if you see an RSI above 70, that's overbought territory. And oversold territory is 30. And we saw this at the beginning of the year when the ETFs started buying lots of Bitcoin from the liquidity pool. And we saw the dip below 30 just over the past couple of weeks at the end of June, which took us right down. But again, another foolproof signal. We've got a thing called top and bottom indicator. It takes about 22 different signals together and creates a composite score. You take your fear and greed, you take your RSI, you mash them together. You got an indicator right there. And buy under 30. Buy when fear and greed is 25 in a bull. Simple. Let's talk about other news too. All of a sudden, Michael Dell has been talking a lot about Bitcoin. Thank you, Piper. He's very, very excited. Does a lot of surveys and posts Cookie Monster eating Bitcoins and all that weird stuff. And a lot of people do believe he could be Mr. 100 because he has the money. I calculated about 1.7% of his total net worth is the size of the actual spend from Mr. 100. And he keeps buying 100 Bitcoin every single day. But he did see BlackRock CEO Larry Fink's video, and he said it was fascinating. Larry Fink said that his doubts about Bitcoin 5 years ago were wrong. Bitcoin is now legitimate. It's digital gold, an investment tool that the country cannot control, and it can help them deal with hyperinflation. Strong words from the biggest money runner on the planet, ladies and gentlemen, and a top 10 billionaire as well, saying it's fascinating. What does that tell you? Yeah, smart money is in the game now. Big time. Big time. And as you know, shout out to Ivan. When Tether mints, buy. I love this one. Tether just minted another $1 billion, which means another $1 billion of liquidity. Talk about liquidity again, is coming into the Bitcoin crypto space, and that will snap up some hard assets as well. Now, I'm reticent to always talk about politics, but there is now a pro-crypto and pro-innovation vice president candidate chosen for the upcoming election in November. This is good news for the space. The space is changing. As I've always said, embrace or die. Now, the majority are beginning to embrace because they know the importance of this. When you got people like Michael Dell, Michael Saylor, Larry Fink, all pro-Bitcoin, you'd want to be a fool to be against it. Speaking of fools going against, or people going against fools, I should say, go get them, John Deaton. Ripple donated $1 million to support John Deaton's effort to unseat Elizabeth Warren because she is and has been the name of the anti-crypto army. And nothing personal to fans of Elizabeth Warren, but if you are anti-crypto, I'm probably not going to be a fan of yours. So I just want people to understand, nothing against her, but it's against her anti-crypto war that she's waging. So I got to catch things very carefully here. But this guy is going up against her in the state of Massachusetts. So if anybody's here from Boston, Massachusetts, or anywhere in Massachusetts, let us know. Let us know what you feel too. Now, VanEck, another good news regarding pension funds. VanEck exposes these French pension funds to Bitcoin for the first time. By the way, VanEck are deploying stuff all over the planet at the same time. I'm really impressed with how they are doing that. And they, together with Intervest, partnered to launch the first Bitcoin ETN, exchange-traded note, called VBTC for French pension plans, allowing regulated Bitcoin investment in retirement savings. And this is awesome news for those French people that are managing pension funds that need to stop the fiat debasement melting away their future. It's like the game theory is coming at Bitcoin from so many angles right now. It's not even funny. But there's more. It's not just the French. Look at this from Hey Apollo. The Hong Kong ETFs are back. They bought 1,000 Bitcoin in July. And we're only halfway through July. So it was, sometimes these things have a lackluster start and then the penny drops and then they buy. So again, another corner of the world snagging up Bitcoin, which is so scarce. And let's talk a little bit about where we are in the range. What's interesting about this, again, this chart here talks about the bottom of the range and it compares Bitcoin to previous cycles. So you got all the different epochs. The green one at the top is the first halving. The yellow one, I think, is the third halving. The red one is the second halving. Technically, there's 5 halvings already, but we don't really count the first. So we're just showing 1, 2, 3, 4. And the orange one at the very bottom right-hand corner, which just began 88 days ago, is down lower than any other. So, and we're also at the bottom of the range, because the range is the average cloud here for all of these trajectories. Now, what's cool about this is 1, yes, bottom of the range. 2, we're coming out of that, 3-month post-halving period, which means things should go up if history repeats. And most importantly, if we assume the same growth as the past 3 cycles, we expect Bitcoin, 1 Bitcoin, to be worth somewhere between $140,000 and $4.5 million per coin, starting from the $63,000 halving price. Again, 3 months after, still at the bottom of the range of all these previous epochs. But if history repeats, Bitcoin could go to 140,000 up to 4.5 million, which would be mind-blowing. I think if we get to 120,000, that will already be awesome. But I tend to sandbag a lot, but that's just me. Anyway, moving on. We do have Ethereum ETF coming next week. Apparently, rumored hard out there on Bloomberg and other places. SEC has directed asset managers to submit finalized registration statements for a July 23rd launch. Exactly 7 days from now. Wouldn't it be funny if the ETH ETF launched on OCTA Tuesday? That'd be awesome. Let's talk about some other things that are happening in blockchain. And we're talking about, RWA, real world assets, tokenization of the world. Well, this just in from friend of the channel, Marty Party, and new DCA member. These are RWA tokenized stock listings by BactFi. And it's funny, actually, because if you look at some of the names that they have, Tesla's top of the list, MicroStrategy is top of the list. And coincidentally, they are my 2 largest positions, and I did not set this up. You can go to BactFi yourself and look at this ranking. My 2 largest positions are the first 2 that they tokenized, which is hilarious. Then Google, Microsoft, GameStop is in there, and I don't know why. NVIDIA's there, good. Backed New Technologies, no idea what that is. And Coinbase is in there too. So it's a fun list of plays that are out there. They even have the S&P 500 index. So again, expect more. But the cool thing about this, obviously, we're not in a time yet where these things can truly reflect real-time prices in after hours. But once they get tokenized and the markets get enough liquidity and depth, we will all be able to trade 24/7 like we can with crypto. So I'm excited about that because I don't sleep anyway, so why not trade 24/7? Yes. And speaking of Solana too, it's running the show. Solana now accounts for over 30% of all DEX volumes across all blockchains. As I've always said, winner takes most, and that's exactly what's playing out here. Raydium as well continues to dominate Uniswap, second week running, and we'll see what this goes. Again, the more modern technologies, better, cheaper, faster, tends to win the day. Now, this triggered a question. There was data around Solana versus Ethereum versus Arbitrum and other players. And friend of the channel as well, Mert, said, I think we're at the point where comparing Solana metrics to Ethereum doesn't make as much sense anymore. Most of the activity has moved to L2s, so if we want to compare ourselves, we need to aim for higher standards. There are some exceptions like validator revenue, etc. So I took this to heart and I decided, why not do that? So we'll pull in the data for Solana against ETH plus the L2s that matter. And let's look at some data right now. So first of all, this is from the SCP profiler that analyzes everything in great detail. We've got access to every type of metric you could possibly imagine. First one is Sol to ETH plus layer 2's daily transactions. Solana smokes all of them combined. Okay, not even a close competition. Let's look at Sol to ETH plus L2's daily active users. Here we see Solana's 1.655 million daily active users. MATIC up there, 1.33. They were 1 million not too long ago. So MATIC have grown. And Base, 667, if you can really even include that, because it's kind of like a private one node layer 2. Arbitrum, 614. So this gets more interesting. This does show when you add up ETH plus all the layer 2s, they actually have more daily active addresses. But sometimes as well, there's double counting involved, because if you have to do something on a layer 2, you invariably do something on ETH, etc., etc. And if you're moving stuff between layer 2s, you're hitting 3 different things at the same time. So take that with a grain of salt, but it is an interesting point of view. Let's look at Sol to ETH plus layer 2s daily transaction fees. Ethereum, 4.6 million. Solana, 2.3 million. And the rest are crumbs. So here, again, even if you add up all the layer 2s for fees, they're not making a lot of fees at all. And there will come a time. Solana has already beaten out Ethereum in terms of fees, which is incredible considering the price difference, $16 versus 0.0002 cents. But again, you see here, you make it up in transactions. The old joke from the .com bust was you make it up in volume, but it actually works in crypto too. So that's fees. And final thing I just want to share is Sol to ETH plus L2's Dex Volume. Again, Dex Volume is where all the action happens. Solana smokes all of them combined too. So again, the black hole thing is still hanging out there. Still a long way to go. We're still very early in adoption for crypto, but it's happening fast. Now let's look at the stock market for the last 7 days. Mixed, a lot of red. NVIDIA down 4%. We're talking more about NVIDIA. Microsoft down 2%. Google down 2%. Amazon down 3%. I think it's Amazon Prime Day, by the way, today. Tesla down 2%. Meta down a big 7.45%. And Apple up 2%. So Apple always runs counter to these guys. But again, this is the summer doldrums. But there's some good stuff happening as well. First of all, Tesla FSD. Again, another friend of the channel, Herbert Ong. FSD version 12.5 is coming faster than expected. And this will be a game changer. There are beta users that have 12.4 right now. It's already very special, but 12.5 is coming fit, fast, and furious. And it will change the game. Although very few believe it. You know, when they say you can drive 150 miles without intervention, yeah, that's real. But a lot of people believe it's not. But the people that don't believe it are those that actually don't have it, which is interesting. If you want to find out those that have it and are the early beta users for years, go check out some of the channels out there, like Chuck Cook, like Hallmark's Catalog. Then you can do your drive-alongs with those folks and see. And they'll tell you exactly what's good and what's bad about it, but they'll also tell you their mind is blown. In addition, Tesla China sales are strong Q3 so far. It's a bit hard to see that purple line, but boy, we have beaten all the previous quarters. Tesla China reporting strong 11,400 insured registrations for last week. And after 2 weeks, Q3 is 36% year over year and 121% quarter over quarter. And it's the best start to a quarter, I think, ever. So watch this space carefully. First half, yes, was slow. Second half will be bonkers. Because guess what's also happening in China? Money printing. The government's printing money so people can go buy more cars. Good stuff. And maybe some crypto too. And a lot of people believe EVs are just a fad, especially if you look at mainstream media and you listen to General Motors. Yes, nobody really cares. But this is what's critical, is the tipping point. And the US is a very slow adopter of EVs when you compare them to other nations. But the US is on pace to reach 50% EV adoption, all new car sales, somewhere by 2029 to 2030. It's going to hit. And that 50% target shows you that there will be a major ICE slowdown between now and then. In fact, peak ICE, which is internal combustion engine vehicles, was in 2017. Since then, it's been down. And hybrids are a freaking joke. But again, mainstream media and car makers won't tell you that because that's all they can make, because they haven't figured out how to make BEVs good and cheaply or inexpensively like Tesla have. So this is coming. And to prove it's coming, Denmark coincidentally just tipped over the 50% tipping point. Over half of all vehicles in Denmark are now battery electric vehicles. And guess what? That is now alongside other countries like Iceland, Norway, China, etc. So ICE is already dead. The writing is clearly on the wall, but many people refuse to believe it. And I understand, like being a petrol head when I was younger, motorbikes and sports cars and stuff, I get it. But you can't deny what's coming. And that's what people need to be aware of. All right, speaking of, I touched on this briefly this morning, but I think it's worth mentioning again. MicroStrategy, since August 2020, has outperformed NVIDIA, which has been the best performing stock, one of the best performing stocks ever, which is kind of bonkers to think about. So since August 2010, MicroStrategy is up 1,203%. By the way, I didn't start trading MicroStrategy till September 2010, so I was a month late, or 3 weeks late or something. Anyway, NVIDIA, 1,050%. Bitcoin, 433%. Tesla, 167%. By the way, Tesla's had a miserable 3 years, but it's still up, 167%. Google, 152%. Ooh, Tesla beat Google. Microsoft, 118%. Apple, 108%. Meta, 89%. Netflix, 36%. And Amazon, 22%. Basically, if you've been holding Amazon since August 2020, you took it in the shorts, because debasement is a lot more than 22%. This is why I always say every dog has its day. Everything happens in cycles. You got to make sure you're in it and out of it at the right time. Don't think any asset you can hold on to forever, or buying a star from the past like Apple or Amazon and expect them to perform. No, not unless they have something very revolutionary. That's why we like Tesla here. Anyway, moving on. Speaking of NVIDIA, it is now a whopping 11.7% of US GDP. And this is from Finance a Lot. At the height of the dot-com bubble, Cisco was worth 5.5% of US GDP. Today, NVIDIA market cap is 11 points, as more than 200% of what Cisco was back in the day. And I remember trading Cisco and EMCs and Broadcoms and all that stuff back in the day. But that's over a quarter of a century ago. It's bonkers how time changes. Looking at NVIDIA chart real quick, it is clearly running out of steam. You can see the sell flag topping out there around 130 plus change. I get called out at $128 of my position. And once that happens, and I'm kind of hoping I do get called out, I reallocate. Because this horse, I believe, is out of steam. Yes, it could still go up another 50%, but is it going to double or triple? No. And that's what I want. I want things that triple. Otherwise, I'm not interested. Now, let's talk about GDP growth as well, because we were talking about GDP and how big the NVIDIA GDP is. speaking of GDP growth, United States is expecting 2.6% 2024 GDP growth. And this is just the G7 nations. Poor Germany, 0.2%. You know what? If they add a Bitcoin to their balance sheet, maybe they could get some performance like this. But who knows? I'm just a guy on the internet. I'll go down in infamy. I'm sorry for picking on Germany. I love the German people. Government officials, I don't know. Italy, 0.7%. UK, 0.7%. Japan, 0.7%. France, growing faster than Germany. And Canada, growing faster than France. That's pretty remarkable. So important to look at that. And another piece of absolutely brilliant news, September rate cut is all but certain at this stage, based on statistics, based on the bond market. There is a 0.3% chance of a 75 basis point cut. Who knows? They might even do that if they look at how much they're spending on interest servicing. And a double cut, 50 basis points, is 10.2%, and the rest, 90% rate cut coming. So you add all these together, you're 100%. There is no chance of them not cutting based on this futures data. It's great news for us. And if you look around the world, nobody is hiking. There is not one central bank on the planet that is hiking rates. That means the world is going to cut rates. And the world is going to print more money. And there'll be more debasement. And that will float all our boats. But again, you have to look at everything in terms of monetary terms. Divide everything by M2. I know the gold bugs are very excited. Gold is hitting a new all-time high. When you divide it by M2 over the last 40 years, over the last 10 years, the last 5 years, it didn't do so well. Starman, thank you for coming. Final piece of news, 52 nuggets. This shows you exactly what's happening in the world. Retail sales were flat in June, defying Wall Street's prediction of a decline, which is actually... it's kind of a negative news and positive news because if you are a retailer, you want to grow your sales. You don't want to be flat. But at the same time, the expectations were negative, so it beat that too. And all of these videos are turned into podcasts and written versions with all the slides by the team behind me. Thank you so much for doing that. 10 cents a day if you're interested. And hope you like the content. That was OCTA, big one. And... 6,000 people watching live. Let's check in on the Bitcoin price as well, because we had a little bit of active stuff today. Bitcoin, 64,900. Still it's playing around that 65K level. It doesn't know how to jump above it or stay below, and everything else is great today. The miners are completely on fire, as well as MicroStrategy. 2 incredible days. So enjoy the gainers, everybody. Stay humble, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you as well to the mods in the chat. T&D Tesla, Sean Donnelly, K8, and everybody who is here as well. GM Gaines is there too. Thank you.